This lesson is also connected and referred to lexicographic evidence. And lexicographic evidence refers to the proof or data used to support the inclusion, meaning, usage, spelling, or grammatical behavior of a word or expression in a reference words. In other words, it basically involves documenting the selection of lexicographic data. It is then the evidence that lexicographers rely on when deciding 1. Whether a word or expression is in real use, 2. What it means as well as its grammar, 3. How it is used, and 4. How common or current it is. There are 3 main types of lexicographic evidence: subjective, objective, and mixed. In this lesson, I will explain objective evidence. And we must remember that objective lexicographic evidence refers to what we learned about words and expressions that exist in a language and how they are employed when we observe language in use, and I repeat, language in use. And this involves the systematic collection and analysis of information relating to words and their usages, and we use them to create accurate, unbiased, and comprehensive lexicographic data that should reflect the way words and expressions are used, for example, at the time we compile a reference word. The use of objective evidence for lexicographic purposes is well documented. Here is a list of uses related with objective lexicographic evidence that demands a lexicographer's second thought. 1. We must not forget that language is a dynamic system that tolerates a lot of variation, creativity, and idiosyncrasy. This dynamicity determines the necessity of observing language in many different contexts and spoken by many different types of users. In other words, objective lexicographic evidence demands observing many different types of written and spoken text. 2. Lexicographers typically carry out their work assuming the existence of linguistic and lexicographic conventions. For instance, lexicographers are traditionally aimed at offering linguistic typification, and linguistic typification means words and expressions that are both frequent and well dispersed. I think that this concept of typification may be related to the world of print, when space constraints were a major component of lexicography. In my view, in the digital environment, this concept of typification is not important, and I therefore maintain that lexicographers should include in the database slots of the lexicographic editing software all the subjective or objective data that they consider appropriate when compiling the data. This is a practical and pragmatic approach because there are no space constraints in the online environment, and consequently, the inclusion and treatment of, for example, idiosyncratic data may in fact help someone. There are different types of objective lexicographic evidence. Being relevant, literary citations that I have explained in other lessons, and linguistic corpora. In what follows, I will analyze linguistic corpora. Just for remembering, a linguistic corpus is a large and structured body of text in machine-readable form, selected according to external criteria to represent as far as possible a language or language variety as a source of data for linguistic research. And you know, this is a famous quotation from Sinclair 2005. For Sinclair and for many scholars working with linguistic corpora, there should be a certain type of curation. That is, a corpus is filtered by means of sampling, representativeness, balance, external criteria, and size. Here is a list of general observations and specific questions that must be answered when designing a linguistic corpus for lexicographic use. General observation number 1. You should define your goals and scope asking questions such as this. A. Is the project focusing on a specific language, dialect, or aspect of language? B. Is the corpus covering a single language, multiple languages, or specific dialects or varieties? C. Is the corpus supporting monofunctional or polyfunctional reference works? D. Can lexicographers make use of free access and existing corpora, or must they compile their own corpus? General observation number 2. You should plan for comprehensive representation. This means that your corpus must be balanced and representative of the goals and scope previously defined. This can be achieved by answering questions such as this. A. Which text types, registers, and genres must the corpus include? B. How can lexicographers combine spoken and written sources? C. How large is large enough? In other words, how large must it be to be statistically significant and useful for lexicographers' goals and objectives? D. How can the proportion of each text, type, genre, register, and subcategory of the corpus should be included to be decided? General observation number 3. You should collect data. And this means that you must identify data sources and decide on legal and ethical considerations, especially permission and copyright rules, and you can do that by asking questions such as this. A. Which sources will lexicographers be using in order to compile the corpus? B. Do you need permission for compiling your corpus? And in particular, are you breaching copyright rules? C. Are you protecting privacy? Etc. General observation number 4. You should focus on authentic usage. This means that corpora prioritize authentic real-life examples of language use. And you can address these issues by answering questions such as these. A. Do we lemmatize single or multi-word lemmas? B. What do we do with idiosyncratic usages? C. Which examples are most suitable for our project? General observation number 5. You should develop the corpus for lexicographic purposes. This means that all components of corpus must be digitized, normalized, and annotated with as much metadata as possible. For example, by answering questions such as these. A. Which corpus encoding standard are you using and why? B. Are you also using annotation graphs? C. Which document header will be created? D. How much granularity will the corpus have? General observation number 6. You should prepare for managing and maintaining the corpus. This depends on choosing or developing software tools for storing, managing, and querying your corpus, as well as deciding on updates and accessibility by asking questions and answering questions such as these. A. Are lexicographers creating their own software tool, or will they use off-the-shelf tools such as a sketch engine? B. Do lexicographers plan to make their corpus available to other researchers? C. How can lexicographers keep the corpus updated? Once you have decided on the above observation, it is time for using the linguistic corpora for providing objective lexicographic evidence, which is extracted by using software tools that I will analyze in a new lesson. In particular, corpus data are typically used for the following lexicographic tasks. 1. Disambiguating word senses. The analysis of corpus concordances is typically used to distinguish between the senses of a word, and it is often claimed that the diverse context provided by a corpus can help in identifying subtle differences in meaning. For example, by offering a word sketch of a particular word or expression. 2. Corpus are also used for identifying new words and meanings. Corpus data are generally employed to identify neologisms and new uses of existing words. This can be achieved by analyzing frequency and keenness data and noting words that appear in the corpus but not, for example, in referent corpora or in existing language repositories. This can also serve for discovering semantic shifts, and semantic shifts are changes in the meaning of words and expressions over time, which is crucial, say, for compiling historical dictionaries and for updating dictionary entries to reflect current usage. 3. Corpus data are also used for providing authentic usage and real-world samples. Lexicographers select representative sentences from the corpus to illustrate different meanings of a word and thus providing users with clear, contextualized sentence or phrase examples. The sentences or phrase examples they extract from the corpus illustrate how words are used in natural contexts. The samples then can be from different registers, formal, informal, technical, from different genres, written, spoken, online, etc. And they should show the range of contexts in which a word can appear. 4. Corpus data are also used for providing information on word frequency and distribution. Lexicographers determine the relative frequency and keenness of words and expressions and their variance so as to decide on which of these to describe and inform the users about the commonality of their items. Lexicographers also analyze this data, how the frequency and keenness of words vary across different text types, regions, or among speakers of different demographics, thereby providing with good insights into word usage. 5. Corpus data are also used for analyzing words combinations. This involves examining how words combine in natural language use to create meaning beyond individual word meanings. In general, lexicographers use concordances tools to search the corpus for instances of the target words, identify frequent collocates, and apply statistical measures to assess the strength and significance of word combinations. 6. Corpus data are also used for offering grammatical data. Corpus data provide details about the structure and function of words in expressions. For example, by using natural language tools for these tasks. These data are used for both offering the grammar and function of the lemma and also for creating usage notes. And usage notes provide explanations of grammatical issues, common errors, or variation in usage that are relevant to specific words and expressions. Corpus data are also used for providing accurate pronunciation of words and sometimes expressions. And this involves integrating audio resources or phonetic transcriptions into a corpus of text. For example, by using text-to-speech technology, which is a type of assisted technology that reads digital text aloud. It consists, in other words, of implementing text-to-speech technology to generate on-demand audio pronunciations from the text of a corpus. 8. Corpus data are also used for understanding syntactic and morphological patterns. The corpus is mainly used for identifying, say, inflectional patterns and derivational processes, as well as compounding and blending. It is also used for studying sentence structure, phrase structure, dependency relations, and variations across, for example, genres and registers. These analyses depend on tools such as concordances, parsers, taggers, and collocation analyzers. 9. Corpus data are also used for offering etymology and history of words and expressions. And this combines historical linguistics with corpus linguistics to trace the origin, development, and transformation of words and expressions over time. This is usually achieved by comparing data from historical and diachronic corpora, for example, with reference corpora. And the Google Ngrams viewer, for example, is very often used for tracing historical patterns. 10. Corpus data are also used for identifying regional, cultural, and social variation. This implies the use of corpora which contains as data, for example, the corpus of regional African American language, or the international corpus of English. The data structed must be subjected to variationist analysis by comparing them with data extracted from referent corpora, such as the British National Corpus. In sum, linguistic corpus are a form of objective lexicographic evidence that lexicographers typically use for deciding which items merit inclusion in the slots of the lexicographic editing software. Remember that many scholars refer to this as dictionary writing system, and how this data should be included. Thank you very much.